Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Retirement Cafe podcast. It's great to have you here. This week, I am joined by a good friend of mine, Michelle Hoskin. Michelle runs Standards International, which is a coaching organization she founded that sets standards across the globe for financial services. Michelle is best known as Little Miss Wow for her endless energy and enthusiasm and her infectious passion for driving global change within the financial services profession through higher standards. Over the past year, author and speaker Michelle has branched out into the areas of mental health and financial abuse. After a few personal events over the past couple of years, Michelle undertook a mental health course to gain the skill set to be able to help those who might be suffering. She then went on to bring her passion to fight abuse into the field of finance, developing a course to teach financial planners how to spot financial abuse. In our conversation, Michelle shares her motivations for wanting to be able to help anyone who might need it. She defines financial abuse, which in essence is where someone uses money to control someone else, and gives us ways in which we can all be there for our family and friends, business partners, or even a stranger. It's a really interesting topic, and Michelle explains how financial abuse is often the precursor to domestic abuse. So it's unbelievably important that we're able to identify when it's going on and help those around us. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Michelle as much as I enjoyed having it. Welcome to the Retirement Cafe podcast, Michelle Hoskin.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I've been really looking forward to our conversation, Michelle. Now, we've known each other quite a long time now. For those who don't know you, who are you?
So, yeah, sometimes I'm not sure. I am Michelle Hoskin. I am a mother of a wonderful 10-year-old. I'm also a very busy businesswoman. I run an organisation called Standards International, which is effectively a standards and coaching body which specialises in financial services. So we coach and train and educate financial planners and advisors, but we also set sector benchmarks in terms of excellence, how they can run their businesses. And if that's not enough, I'm always trying to find new ideas and initiatives to keep myself busy. And when I'm not doing that, obviously COVID striking, I was, and I still am, a professional speaker, and I speak at financial services conferences, was all over the world, but now I do it from the glorious position of my dining table, which saves me lots of air miles and lots of jet lag. So
absolutely. And of course, we came across and started working professionally when you launched the British Standard in financial planning, and obviously the international standard, which at the time we were very pleased to become one of your first accredited members. I think
you were. Yes, you were. It's incredible achievement, and actually, these standards are always good because it helps people identify the best of the best, and that's why that keeps me busy most of the time.
Yeah, fantastic. So, well, just on that front, Michelle, I'm always interested. What do you obviously you get to talk to lots of financial advisors, lots of financial professionals across the world nowadays. Obviously over Zoom now, but I know that you used to travel the world as well, meeting financial professionals and educating and coaching them. I always think it's still quite a struggle to understand how would a consumer listening to this show, how in their local town, in their local place, what would you suggest that they look for when they're trying to find someone to give them advice in a professional matter?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me is when it comes to any relationship, because working with a financial planner and an advisor is absolutely a relationship. It's a relationship, a personal one, before it's anything else. And for me, it's always about fit. It's about that connectivity. It's almost like, to work with the right financial planner or advisor for you, it's like having a piece of string connected to your heart that also connects to their heart, a piece of string that connects to your mind that also connects to their mind. And that's the fit piece. So I think the most important thing is for anybody to establish and make sure that they're clear on their own values, I think. And, if they was to come up with a wish list of, what they would want their perfect advisor in any capacity, whether it be a lawyer or accountant or financial advisor, what are your own personal values? So you're naturally going to want to find those in the person that you are working with. It's in any relationship, romantic relationships, personal friendships, it doesn't matter. So I think my advice would be, there is a real mixture out there. We have a wonderful directory of firms that have achieved certain levels of standards, which is obviously fabulous. And I think the fundamental thing would be, find out who's in your local area and meet them, really meet them. This is not a beauty parade. You don't need to consider it, well, I'm just going to check what their fees are. This is about, this is our personal situation. This is what's going on in our lives. Did that person, when you sat in front of them, listen to you? Did they ask you lots of questions? Did they show a genuine interest in what you were trying to do? Did they seek to understand before they were seeking to be understood? Were they bothered more about themselves, or were they more bothered about you? So you sit there, and we've all got this radar personally of going, I'm not really sure about that guy, or I'm not really, she didn't do it for me, or whatever. Never dismiss that kind of gut instinct. I think the biggest two other things in addition to that are their level of skills. Check out their qualifications, check out their training, check out, don't be afraid in any way, shape or form to say, what's your training plan for the next year? What areas are you developing your skills to know that so that I know you have the best skills to be able to deliver what I need to be able to satisfy my needs, and also how they charge. It's always a biggie, but kind of high upfront charges are always a bit of a sign. We always encourage financial planners to break down their charging, so that if you decided to go and implement any recommendations somewhere else or do it yourself, you could. And the biggest thing is that their fees are not contingent on you doing business with them. So if they charge you for a discovery meeting or to do a financial plan, really consider that a benefit, because actually they're showing that there's value that they're delivering at all levels, not just, well, I'm going to get paid when you do business with me, so therefore I'm going to make you do business with me. So I think there's a few things for me, but fit is absolutely the most important one for me, because it's a people business. And there are some fabulous planners and advisors out there, and there are some not even dodges, but there are some not very nice ones. And you have to follow your gut instinct. Your radar will probably tell you if someone feels a bit off. They probably are.
Yeah. Wise words, Michelle. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, I know that you're spending a lot of time in talking about training, but you've invested a lot of time recently in skilling yourself up, haven't you, in areas around mental health and financial abuse. Tell me, where did that come from? Why did you think that you needed the skills, and what's the purpose?
So I think, we live in absolutely crazy times, and before COVID, before lockdown, life was crazy still. Like, it's not. This has made the world a little bit more bonkers, but ultimately, most people had, the life complexities, life challenges that were being thrown at them all the time. We all handle things differently, and one of the things that triggered it. We'll talk about the mental health thing first. Was I went to school one day to drop Ruby off, and the playground this was like April 2019, and the playground was almost like silent. It was the weirdest feeling as I walked through the gate, and I said to the headmaster, I said, what's going on? Like, what's going on? And he took me into the office, and because I had connections with the fire service and the police at the time due to a relationship I was in, he said that we've just found out that one of the mums within our family, the school mums, one of the mums who had a child at the school, she'd taken her own life. And oh my God, you could have just ripped my heart out, because I'm a mom. Her son was a little bit older than Ruby, and she basically took her life the morning that he went on his school trip to France, when he wasn't in the house and wouldn't be returning for a week. And I was absolutely heartbroken. And the reason I was heartbroken was, I consider myself quite smart and quite aware, and I go on stage talking about well-being and how to spot if somebody is not doing so well. And yet there's a mom standing in our playground, and had been for God knows how long, suffering from mental ill health. And I was so cross. I was so angry. I was like, how did somebody not spot this? How? How did somebody not spot this was coming, right? And actually, more recently, as I was telling you before, I bumped into a friend of mine, again, a mum at the school, and I said to her, I could tell on her face, like, what's gone on? And she said, we found our neighbour dead in his house yesterday. He'd shot himself. And I was like, oh my flaming God, like, are you all right? And she said, yeah. She said, we're fine. I said, how old was he? She went, 93. And I was just like, oh my God, like, what's going on? But the beauty this time was that I think that I would have been able to spot signs that he wasn't doing so well, or and literally I came back to my flat. I phoned my 94-year-old auntie in York, and I went upstairs and popped up to see Brian, who's 80, that lives on his own at the top flat, and I've invited him round for Christmas dinner. Like, I was just, it's bananas. So the mental health thing for me was that I just wanted to have the skills, the knowledge. I needed it in my kit bag, because by God, if I never want to not spot that craziness again. Like, it's just not happening. And I have a 10-year-old who is living in a very different world to my life when I was 10. And, I want to have the equipment that I need to be an amazing mom, to support Ruby, for whatever life throws at her. And that was mainly my prompt to do the certified mental health first aider. And since that time, I've had 4 conversations about suicide with people.
Wow.
Like, literally, like, real conversations. Like, I have said to them, are you considering taking your own life? I've straight out, all balls out. I've asked the question, because that's a positive action from a mental health first aider. So that's the mental health first aid thing. And I'll be honest with you, it's taken me probably about a month to adjust to feeling how I felt doing that course, because I felt like I'd been gobbled up for breakfast, chewed around, and spat out for lunch, like, mentally myself. So it's taken me a while to balance that. But I feel so empowered that I can help. Everybody should do it. I mean, it's like 300 quid. It's run by Mental Health First Aid England. I can share the details of the trainer that I just highly recommend. In fact, you've met her, Sarah Ambrose, from our committee. She did the training off the scale, like what this woman doesn't know. I mean, it's just not worth knowing, but wonderful thing to do. And the financial abuse point was, I got chatting a few years ago to a financial planner who has a business in the Gold Coast in Australia. And she said to me, she said, Will, can I interview you for my book? She was writing a book on financial secrets revealed. And I said, God, yeah, amazing. I don't know what I'm going to share with you, but yeah, absolutely. I was like, loving it. It's like, I'm going to be in a book and everything. I've written my own books, but it still wasn't the same. I wanted to be in somebody else's book. And so fickle we are, right? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So she interviewed me, and obviously when the book was published, she sent me the copy of the book, and in the book was an interview with a lady called Tanya Target, who was she shared her story in this book, and she'd been a victim of financial abuse, severe, horrific case of financial abuse.
Right.
And I said to Amanda, oh my God, like, I was reading it going, oh my God, like, oh my God, I just was so overwhelmed by it. And because of the business I have and the powers that I have within my own decision making and what we can do as a business, I said to Amanda, we need to train every professional advisor on the planet to spot, deal with, support, and try and prevent this from even happening in the first place. And given the fact that my clients are financial advisors, we created the certification course. We've trained, there's about 25 financial planners. And actually, interestingly, we had a lady apply the other day who was a probation officer, totally not in financial services at all. She was a life coach and a probation officer. And because she wants to have the skills to spot it. So this is a non-financial services skill but I just wanted to have those skills, because as I'm putting the course together and me and Amanda were working on it, I was like, that's happening to my friend, that. Oh my God, that happened to my grandma. And I'm just like,
so tell me,
wow.
what do you deem financial abuse?
It's basically where money is used for control.
Right.
Okay, so it's very simple. Like, I'm a simple girl, and it just made total sense to me. So it's basically where, and it can be in any relationship. So we could be business partners, for example, and I could say to you, there is no money. We have to pay you less. We have to keep money in the business. Where I am in control of the money. I'm not beating you. I'm not abusing you. I am using money to control or abuse my relationship or my position, or to put you in some detrimental position. And that can be happening in elder abuse. It can be part of elder abuse when you've got a younger relative or a carer that is using money to control the kind of state of play, whereby you might have husbands and wives. You might have husbands abusing their wives and saying, you've only got £500 to feed the family and pay all the bills. Here's £500 and I want to see all your receipts. And actually, it happens in lots of different relationships. But one of the worst, which I find is just even more horrific, is when people are doing it themselves. So I have a friend who, and she's only 45 or something. She's young. Her husband drives a Ferrari. He goes out with his mates. He wears all the designer clothes. He works, right? She's a stay-at-home parent, and she keeps house and all this, that, and the other. She will not buy full price clothes. She buys end-of-line makeup, damaged boxes, lipsticks where the thing's falling off or whatever, and it's basically self-sabotage. So she's using money to deprive herself of the things that she needs, because she doesn't deem her contribution worthy in the family home. He earns all the money, so he can buy the Porsche, he can buy the Ferrari, he can buy the diesel jeans. She'll go to New Look and get them in the sale. Right? She's wearing cheap shoes, he's wearing Gucci loafers, and it's self-sabotage, and he's letting it happen, because ultimately he's not a very nice guy. And I don't know where that's come from, because I haven't engaged in that conversation yet. But that's it. I mean, it's very simple. It's where money is used as a control, and that's why we're training professionals to spot it, which is why I wanted those skills.
So spotting it is one thing.
Mm-hmm. Doing something about it is something else. Yeah.
So what are the skills that advisors can learn, or maybe even people who are listening to this who are not advisors and members of the community, and they think, I'm seeing a relationship, or maybe my own relationship is just not equal in the money stakes.
Yeah.
What are the skills that someone can do themselves, and then as maybe any professional advisors listening to this, what could they do?
So we'll tackle that in two parts. So we'll do the professional advisor or friend, or I'm spotting that in somebody else. So first and foremost, and I say this time and time again, you must follow your gut instinct. If you feel like something is not right, the likelihood is that it isn't. Okay, don't go, oh, it's none of my business. Oh, I probably read that wrong. Absolutely don't ever do that. Because no method, no attempt to seek to understand is ever a bad thing. Okay, so if you've got a doubt, follow it through. So that's the first thing, and that can be anybody. That can be you, me. That can be the girl on the street. It doesn't matter. So basically, if I was sitting, let's imagine I was a professional advisor or just a person, right? And I am. And I spotted, let's use my friend as an example. So what I would say to her was, Samantha, you know when John does this, um, I don't feel that that's fair. How do you feel about it? So what you're saying is, you're first and foremost saying how you feel. And nobody can argue with anybody's feelings because they're yours. So Justin, I feel like I'm having a bad day. You can't say, no, you're not, because you can't.
No.
Nobody can argue with somebody's feelings. So if you say, Samantha, when I see Adam do this or John does this or whatever, I feel that makes you look sad, or I feel like it's a bit out of order, or I feel that doesn't sit right with me. So you basically just say, I feel this, and then you ask, how does that make you feel? And then you basically shut up. And then they might say, well, no, I'm quite fine about it. Oh, okay. Well, when I saw him do that last time, or when I saw you do this time, why was that? And you just question and question and question. Now you'll know, obviously, you're keeping your kind of, your pace and your tone, and all that is very important, not to get angry or opinionated or pass a judgment in any way. Go, oh, okay, well, if ever, and if that person gets quite kind of aggressive, say, okay, I didn't mean to upset you or trigger anything in you, but if you ever want to talk about it, I will talk, we can talk about it, and I'll listen without any judgment. That's all you can do.
Mm.
The point is, the seed has been planted, because what will happen the next time that happens, they've got to be literally, they will be tuned into, actually, this maybe doesn't feel right to me now either. But it genuinely may not have, it may be normal to her to only buy end of line stuff. It might be her upbringing that's triggered that. But somewhere in her life, money has been used as a control, which makes people react in a certain way. So it's literally that. Now, if obviously the conversation is, well, actually, I don't like it. It's been going on for some time. I just thought it was me. Then there are resources which we're going to share in the notes to basically, what can people do about it? If you're a professional advisor, you need the skills, which is what we teach. But general public, the awareness of it is important. If you think it's happening to yourself, so I'll briefly tell you Tanya's story. So Tanya was an investigative journalist, multimillionaire, huge house, wealthy family, beautiful 8-year-old daughter, and she hooked up with this guy. And basically, over a period of time, this guy was removing her family, almost saying, your family don't love you. That friend, I don't like that friend. She's not welcome around again. To the point that he literally moved her out of the country. They moved away. Okay. He isolated her, alienated her from the people around her. So that's how it started. Almost, well, why would you want to go out with your girlfriends when, why can't we hang out tonight? And why aren't we, needy. So basically detached her from everybody that was close to her. And then he lost his job and was just basically just taking all of her money. Like, I need this, I want this, I need that. Basically, financial abuse is the general flow is they want what you have, is basically it. So to the point, and this went on and on and on and on and on, where he then started emotionally abusing her, then he started physically abusing her, and then a girlfriend of hers, they kind of mastered a plan. And all the way through, when you listen to her interview, she knew it wasn't right from day one, but she kept brushing it under the carpet, which we all do. We've all done it. I've been there. We brush it under the carpet. This is not right, but let's brush it under the carpet and deal with it later. To the point that it got so bad that her girlfriend rented a flat in her girlfriend's name, because at this point he was checking all of her statements, her letters, her post, tipping up receipts at the end of shopping. And the only way that she felt confident in actually escaping him was that she was buying food cards, basically food tokens at the supermarket, that she was giving to her girlfriend to hide, so that when she did leave and move into this flat, she had money for food for her and her 8-year-old daughter.
Wow.
And this was a smart, professional public speaker, businesswoman who was literally annihilated. And it's like grooming. So the reason that I was so passionate about doing something about this was because effectively, it's like grooming. It's like it's a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. And the reason it was so important was because all of my clients, contacts, people I know in my professional circles could probably spot some of that earlier. When a financial planner has a meeting with a client and he won't let the wife come, or the wife doesn't let the husband come, or the older client is using language like, my granddaughter's not going to like that, or well, I'll have to run it past some person, and you're just like, why would you need to do that? And you because it starts with the money, but then it hits emotion, then it hits physical. So my thinking, logically, a simple girl, is if you can spot it and prevent it there, you're probably likely to also prevent emotional abuse, physical abuse, and sometimes sexual abuse. And sometimes it's death. One of the stories is a lady who, I won't tell you the story, but basically she ended up finding herself locked in a box because her boyfriend tried to kill her, because he'd basically taken all her money and wanted her life and her money and her house, and she found herself unconscious, locked in a box. And it all started with money. It all started with her dating. She was 50, like she wasn't 20. She was 50, 55, wealthy, had money, but he wanted what she had. And if you are feeling like you are a victim, probably not best to speak to the perpetrator. Actually, is to go and speak to somebody else. And there is huge amounts of resources available. And the BBC recently did some, and we'll share them again in the notes, recently did a documentary, and there's some articles in the press. It's horrific because it starts with money, all starts with money. The root of all evil, as they say. But obviously, in so many cases, it's the best thing to happen to anybody. Yeah. Big time.
Gosh, there's a lot going on. So
there is a lot going on.
So what I'm hearing really from you is that the mental health first aid, I think, is something that possibly everyone should get involved in.
100%.
Advisors, professional
Mums,
advisors,
dads,
anyone.
grandmas.
Because we are, as you quite rightly said, we're in unprecedented times that we haven't faced anything like this as generations. I do always reflect that we've, life isn't so bad that we've got bombs being dropped on our heads. I mean, I always reflect back to, World War II, and obviously we're talking around, just after the Remembrance Day. But so life isn't like that. But it's different, isn't it? And it's different stresses and different. It's just a different world. And so anyone having skills in mental first aid, I think, could be hugely beneficial for their friends, family, and community. And the more people
they reckon, Justin, that mental illness is going to be the biggest debility in the world. Yeah. It's going to be, it's going to be the globe. It's going to be a global disability, and it's going to be it will outdo every other disability that we know about. It's that bad.
Yeah.
Because it's not. You're right. It's not. We haven't got bombs being dropped, and it's not like that. But it's like this. And I say that all the time. It's not like it used to be, but it's like it is today. Yeah. And we're just not equipped with what we need at all. Not at all.
No, we've spent a million years evolving, and we haven't evolved, so we had to deal with this. So all power to everyone who is dealing with it and well. But yes, actually getting skills, getting a toolkit in your backpack so that you have the ability to help people when you can. And I presume
that you would believe that these skills are available to anyone who undergoes the course. You know,
Absolutely.
they don't need a prerequisite kind of, you know, qualification in nursing or
Nope.
or health skills, etc. You know,
No.
it's available for all.
It really is, and it's just wonderful. Like doing it, I cried, I laughed, I got goosebumps, I got angry, I got frustrated. Like I went through every emotion I possibly could do in the course. But by God, the fact that I've had 4 conversations about suicide since doing it with people that, one of them was considering taking their own life. Like I feel blessed to have those skills. Like it was the best £300 I've ever spent in my life, ever, honestly. And the next one I'm doing is actually one for children. So it's for adults about children's mental health, because children obviously deal with things very differently. And your listeners, they've got grandchildren.
Yeah.
And actually, your listeners at the kind of the retirement age, they're one generation removed too. So let's imagine your listeners are kind of my parents, right? Well, I'm 40 and I've got one camp in the good old days and one foot in the camp of Ruby's generation. So I need the skills. But if, my mom has got no idea what Ruby's life is like she cannot even comprehend it. So my mom would have no hope in helping Ruby in anything. She'd just say what it was like in the good old days. Well, Ruby don't know and don't give a toss what it's like in the good old days, because we're now a generation removed from that. So, oh God, it was just a gift to be able to do it. And,
Yeah.
I'll share dates with you and links and stuff, because everybody should do it. And I'm even going to go through my workbook when I do the children's one with Ruby, so she knows I understand and have those skills to help her and her friend. Although it was I laughed, it wasn't funny, but she came home and she said, Mom, because she knew I was doing the first aid, mental health first aid. She said, Mom, she said, I think Lily is self-harming. I went, who? I was like, oh my God. She's like, Lily's in her class. She's like, I think Lily is self-harming. I was like, oh my God. Like, okay, Ruby, why do you think that? Well, she's got a cut on her finger. I said, okay. I said, I'm not sure she's self-harming, but let's talk about her. And we had this whole conversation about self-harming. Now Lily is self-harming and not self-harming in her class. But the point is, Ruby's aware. It's all about awareness, that is. So yeah, everybody should do it. 100%.
Yeah. And was Lily okay?
Lily was fine. It was paper cut. But I was honestly, and I'm having this conversation about this whole conversation. I mean, I've had, honestly, there's more. I had one of her friends before lockdown sitting in my living room, and I heard Ruby say, tell my mom, tell my mom, understand. My mom, you know what my mom is like? She wants to know everything. So I can hear Ruby tittling away in the living room. And I was like, you're right, girls. And we were like, tell my mom, Nirvana, tell my mom. And I was like, Nirvana, is everything okay? So I sits down at their level on the floor. And she's like, yeah. She said, I think I'm a lesbian. This is Nirvana. Well, the thing is, I had to take it brutally seriously. So I did. I had a whole conversation around why she thought she was a lesbian. And it basically turned out that she thought she was a lesbian because she doesn't fancy any of the boys in the class. And I said, okay, Nirvana, I'm not sure that's enough reason. I said, but if you ever want to talk about it again, I'm here to talk about it. I've never heard from her since, and I think she's not a lesbian. She's absolutely fine. But this is the thing. Like, these are the conversations. I mean, I'd have never said that to my mom ever. And there's still some fully fledged adults that aren't having those open conversations, but 10-year-olds are, right?
Yeah.
I need the skills, and we all need the skills to be able to take that conversation reasonably seriously. So yeah, never a dull day in my house.
No, not at all. Well, Michelle, as always, I've loved chatting to you this morning. We're gonna put all those notes where people can find out about the courses that you run and how you support financial abuse, mental first aid. I think it's fantastic that the work you're doing.
Thank you.
I always admire, your standards,
energy levels,
everything you're going for. So, I commend you once again for bringing this to everyone's notice, and wish you all the success.
My pleasure. Thank you, Justin. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.
So until next time, this is Justin King helping you feel more informed in your retirement.